Okay. All right, so today, like I said, you're going to need to have, in your supply kit, there's several sheets of black paper. You're going to need one of those pieces of black paper. We're going to use the front and the back side of one of these today, just because we're going to need the space. I'm going to scooch over here. You're also going to want to have, besides a piece of black paper today, you're going to want to have your white colored pencil. You're going to want to have, and I'm realizing I must have left mine upstairs, my eraser, but that's okay, I got a different eraser. You're going to want to have this. You guys have this in your toolkit, right? Anthony, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Do you have the sandpaper thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. You're going to want that today. You're going to want a pencil sharpener. And then you guys got a big rectangular, oh, here it is. I do have it. Eraser. Okay? So you're going to need those things today for class. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here. And the first thing we're going to do is a value scale. So you don't need the eyeball yet. So right now, just go ahead and stay on the meat so you can watch and see what we're doing here. And you're going to want to take that white pencil, and we're going to make a value scale on one side. So I'm going to take it and I'm going to lightly just kind of draw out a large rectangle, and then I'm going to divide it with 4 lines, so I have 5 spaces here. Let me turn my light on, that'll probably help. Okay, so a value scale, this is going to show you all the levels of value that you can have working with this black paper and white pencil. That's one thing it's going to show you, because I think a lot of students find that when they're working on this, they think there's only black and white and there's nothing in between, and that's not true. Okay, so that you can have all these values. The other thing is we're going to be starting our thumbnail sketches for this assignment on black paper with a white pencil, so that you can use to just figuring out that part of how to be drawing highlights instead of shadows. And then we're going to be practicing how to do the hatching, cross-hatching, and stippling for the scratch board, okay? So today we're just focusing on smooth blending, and what the value scale does is it allows you to see all those values. And so here's what I want you to do. The first value scale is going to stay black. So we're going to leave that alone. And then I am super light going to color in the other 4 squares. I have to turn my paper a little sideways. It just works better for me. So I'm actually going to do all the same value. And you're going to see when we get to this eyeball why this matters, because this isn't really how we do it with pencil. With pencil, we kind of do one box at a time. So I am drawing. You guys are to draw along with me. I am also recording this, so I will post the recording in Schoology so you can go back to it. And you can see. But that's first step, is I'm going to put all of those boxes as that one value. Now, the one thing that's kind of nice about the colored pencil is that it's forgiving and that you can erase a little bit. So, you know, if you get something outside of the box, or if you're not happy with like the way the edge looks, you can, especially when you've just done a light layer like this, you can use the eraser and it works. All right, so now we've got black and we've got dark gray. So then we're going to go back and we're going to leave this box alone, and we're just going to do these 3, and we're going to add another layer and just make it slightly lighter. So now we have black, we have dark gray, we have a lighter gray for all of this. And so the next one we're going to do is we're just going to take these last two boxes and we're going to make, and I know the lines are starting to disappear, but that's okay. We're going to kind of guess where that was. And we're going to add a little more just to these last two. So the reason I like to do the value scale this way is because this is how you build up your highlights slowly in Scratchboard. You start with one all over pass, and then you go back in and you add more and more and more highlights. Now, if your pencil is getting dull, which it will quickly because the colored pencil is very soft, you can use your pencil sharpener, but I would start by trying to use your sandpaper, because you only have one colored pencil and it has to last you this whole project, and if you over sharpen it, it gets short really quick. So what I like to do is I'm going to use the sandpaper, and I'm just going to try to bring what I have there up to a point. So I'm kind of holding the wood against the, I'm going to hold it this way so you can kind of see the sandpaper to kind of shave away some of the wood and make, I'm not so good at doing it when it's not laying flat on the table, to make a sharper point. And then I'm going to go back to this last box and do one last layer, and I'm going to make it as white as I can for the last layer. So now you can see I have everything. I'm going to turn this light off, maybe it'll show a little bit better. From white to light gray to a little bit darker to black. So there is a full range of values that you can get with this pencil depending on how many layers you build up and how hard you press with the pencil. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do, and if you're falling behind, remember I'm going to post this video later, so you can go back to it and you can finish it later. But I know we just have not that much time together, so I want to get kind of keep pushing through. So now what I'm going to do is I have my value scale. I can see I have black all the way to white. I'm going to flip the paper over, and I'm going to use the back side, and now we're going to draw the eye. So with this eye, the first thing I'm going to look at, I'm going to think of this like I normally think about drawing, and I'm going to look for the contour lines, but I'm going to push super light with my pencil because I want to be in this range where I can erase if I make mistakes. So, step one, super, super light. I'm going to draw the outside lines of the eye. So I'm going to draw this shape. I'm going to draw where the tear duct is. I'm going to draw where the eyeball goes. I'm going to draw what I see for these reflections. I'm going to draw this crease in the eye and some eyelashes. Try to get them both on screen here for you. And I want you guys to know that as we're doing this, the objective of today, drawing this eye, is not at all because I want you to have a pretty picture of an eye when we're done. So if it's a little misshapen or it's not turning out exactly like the picture, don't worry about it. The point is to get some practice with value more than to end up with an exact replica. So if my eye is slightly different than the picture, it's okay. So I'm sketching super, super light. Haley, how you doing so far? You keeping up okay?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
Okay, good. I want to make sure that I'm not going too fast. What about you, Liana? Am I doing okay?
Yeah, you're doing fine.
Okay.
Oh, I thought you were talking to me.
You what?
I thought you were talking to me because I heard man. I was like, oh.
Yeah, I was. I was asking you how my pace was. You were right.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay. You guys don't hesitate to unmute and ask me what you need as we go with this. I'm staring at all black boxes today. I feel lonely. Oh, I feel a little less lonely now, thanks. You guys are great. So I'm going to throw some eyelashes on here, but it's all super light and it's all super sketchy. And I'm not going to focus on getting every single little last eyelash. Doesn't matter. I'm going to get the feel of the eyelashes, okay? Alright, I feel like I might add the double thickness because you get that, what I've heard is called the water line. So I might add that, but then I'm feeling like I pretty much have the outline of the eye the way I want it to be. Okay. If you need to sharpen your pencil, of course do, but I would try this first always, because sometimes it's just the tip that's dull and you just need it to be sharper to get the detail, so it'll make my pencil last longer if I can do that. Okay, so here's the deal. The next thing that we have to wrap our heads around, this is where it gets really tricky when you're drawing with white pencil on black paper. The thing that we have to wrap our heads around is that in the photograph, the lines, every line that I just drew is black. But I have black paper and a white pencil. So when I sketched them out here, it came out reverse. So this line that I drew is supposed to be black, but I made it white. So how do I deal with that? Now, there's not one right way, but the way that I find that helps me is that I think about this like I'm going to do bubble letters, or write somebody's name and then add some thickness to it. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to all these lines that I just made, and I'm going to make them have have a thickness to them. I'm still staying light. And if I make the line too thick, it's fine. It's easy to fix. So I just made a double thickness. I'm going to do the same with my eyelashes. Again, does not matter if you have the perfect amount of eyelashes. And there's this sort of just like a mass of blackness right there, so I'm going to add some thickness to this because it's the darkness on the top. It's more condensed in those areas. I'll do the same thing with my lower lids. And at this stage, I always think they look thick. They look a little bit too thick. It's okay. Don't worry about that. We can shade a little closer. It's almost just like more of a placeholder for us to know that that's where an eyelash is going to go, so we just don't turn it white. Oh, one thing I forgot to draw in, I'm going to do a couple of these, are these sort of blood vessels in the eye. So I'm going to add a couple of these squiggles, and then I'm going to add a double thickness to them. Again, I'm not looking at the blood vessel perfectly to make sure it matches every little last squiggle. Really doesn't matter. Just want to get that feeling of them in there. And then I'll add the double thickness to them. Okay, so again, if I'm going too fast, it's okay. I'm going to do this for the recording, and then you can always go back and you can watch it, and then you can hit pause when you're watching it. It'll just take me a couple minutes after class to make sure it gets loaded. But I'm going to get you going and then give you some time to work on your own. So the next thing I got to do is now I'm going to reverse this, and I'm going to look at negative spaces. Ashley Martinez, do you know what negative spaces are when I say that?
No.
Okay. Negative spaces are this. Liana, yeah. What's up?
I was gonna answer the question of what negative space was.
Yeah, please do. Tell me.
It's the that area around the actual drawing that's not being used.
Right. So it's the area in between or around the object. So instead of me drawing the eyelash, I'm going to draw the negative space between the eyelashes. Okay? So, because that's the part I need to be white. So this is where the value scale also comes into play. None of this at this point should go beyond this value. I want to fill the whole thing in. Here we go. I'm going to flip over this. I did one earlier kind of quickly. I want to fill the whole thing in very, very lightly with the negative spaces. I'm going to go back and I'm going to boost the whiter whites as I go. So this is just like we did the value scale, where we are starting by doing all four of these with one light value. Right? So don't push hard with your pencil. But I'm going to look at this picture and I'm going to identify everywhere that I see is white. And I'm going to fill it in. Do not push hard. Okay, so again, doesn't have to be perfectly smooth. That was just our first pass. Oh, I forgot these guys. That was just our first pass. That was our dark gray value. Oh, I should have put the eyelashes reflected in there. But since I'm drawing super light, I can still use my eraser and I can fix it. So that's the other advantage of doing one layer first. Is that the eraser still works pretty well. I want that reflective quality in the eyes. So do a little bit of that. Okay, so even if you're not done, just watch for a minute. Because the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to this value scale. And I'm going to really look at what part of the eye should be what value, because it's not just black and white. There are levels of gray. So this area here, we've really already just defined that. Now we're at this area here, so we're going to start looking for what we think would match with this. And that might be like this sort of shadow under the eye. I could make slightly lighter than this. That might be, like if I look at the eyeball, it's curved, so like this part of the white here matches this. This corner is in shadow, so I'm going to leave this corner alone. And then these little reflections are going to end up being over here. So I'm going to try to get some of these sort of mid-tones that I see and my second pass. Oops, I'm flipping the wrong one. I'm going to start with this. And I'm going to boost it a little bit. And this is where, like, I think if my lines are slightly on the thick side and I'm starting to get in here and with my second and third passes, I can kind of clean this up, make it smaller if I need to. Go back in with my eraser if I covered it up. But I'm going to start giving it a little bit of a boost in this area. Leaving the outside more shadow. Give it a boost right here. It's a little whiter. I can even divide that eyelash into a couple eyelashes so they appear thinner. So the key to doing scratchboard is to build up your highlights slowly. I see students all the time go straight to the whitest part and just scratch it all out. With pencil and paper, we can use the eraser. With scratchboard, there is nothing you can do. Once you've scratched it off, it's gone. So all you can do at that point is try to work it into the composition and just try to make it work. So that's why we start with pencil and paper, because it allows us to make our mistakes here before we make it on the final. there's like a little, there's, after the crease, there's like that mid-tone shadow, and then it gets much brighter up here. So I'm sort of bringing in that gradient as it goes from dark to light up here. So now I'm kind of just working my way through the value scale to figure out those transitions. And it's kind of blurry, that line. It's not so intense. So I'm not going to worry about it being perfect. I'll let it go ahead and be a little softened. So now I'm starting to reach here because I want this to look more like a soft curve. Now I'm kind of starting to work my way from here to here and even get into this corner here where it's starting to get completely bleached out. All right, I'm going to go back to, because I'm not going to finish this whole eye with you guys today. You guys are going to have 45 minutes of work time on your own to kind of complete it. So I'm going to go back to the actual eye. And the next thing I'm noticing is that I have this mid-tone in the iris, which is sort of this pattern. So I'm going to lay out a super light texture for this. And then I'm going to go back in, because now everything's gray and everything's kind of blending together. So I'm going to go to the next level of highlight, and I'm seeing this reflection is very bright. It's got some other objects reflected in it, so it doesn't have to be perfect. It can be sort of geometric. And then I'm seeing some flecks of different, highlights in the eye itself. So I'm going to get those next. So again, it does not have to be perfect at this point. You're trying to get that feeling. This one's not as bright. Maybe a little too close. So now I'm starting to get that contrast to pop a little bit. So the next place I'm going to move is into the eye itself, and I'm going to look for those really, really shiny white highlights. So there's like one along the edge here. That's what makes this eye look glossy. There's a little bit here, there's a little bit here, there's some here, some on the waterline. So I'm going to just go in and I'm going to try to push that value. And it's looking just a little bit too harsh in terms of the blend. So now I'm going to kind of like, this one we made very choppy on purpose. Now I'm going to kind of like try to soften it so that you see the reflection and you get that white bright, but that the dark plays off as well. So I'm going to kind of take a little bit of time and try to make a gradation so that this eyeball looks, I always say it's an eyeball, not an eye pancake, right? So it's a sphere. So you want it to be brighter towards the iris, and you want it to blend to shadow in the corner, because you're going to get that cast shadow from the eyelid. And then I'll do the same on the other side. So, believe it or not, we're at our time for together time. So I've given you a start. I'm going to finish my drawing here too, and then I'll post the video. I'll see if I can get fancy and like speed it up in certain areas. I'm going to post the video when it's done, but I want you guys to try for the next 45 minutes to do as much as you can on this and try to finish it. When you're done with your drawing for today, I'm going to put a discussion board up so that you can just post it so I can see how it turned out, okay? All right, let's do attendance real quick before we go then.